everyone, I'm Rebecca and welcome back to my channel. Today's project is one that is a nice quick little interim project, but also one that is coming out of extreme necessity. And that is that we are going to recreate some pantalettes from these pantalettes, which had an unfortunate accident when I wore them for the American Girl picnic of this. Yeah, they just completely split, and it's unfortunately not on a seam. It is all of the fabric just completely splitting, and it kept getting worse as the day progressed because I then wore these to the Regency ball as well. So yeah, cute enormous hole just about in the crotch of these pantalettes. And these pantalettes are quite old. I made these back in, I think that was 2016 for my Victorian child look, this one right here that I love so much. And I have worn these a lot because I tend to wear these for pretty much everything Regency, everything 1830s, a lot of my, or at least both of my Kirsten American Girl looks, I guess. And also anytime that I want pantalettes and it's slightly colder, like anytime that I'm doing a historical costuming thing and it's slightly colder, because these are longer than the other bloomers that I wear. Now, these are not necessarily historically accurate. Necessarily is the wrong word. They're not historically accurate. They are historically accurate from, well, right now I suppose they're actually a little bit more historically accurate than they were, but they're historically accurate from about here down, and that is because they have all of these cute tucks around the bottom and cute little eyelet lace around the bottom as well, because with children's wear, or with the American Girl stuff, you do see the bottom of the leg of the pantalettes. That is showing. You then wind up with a little bit of ankle or lower calf showing, and then of course the rest of the outfit. But they would have, well, for children they would not, I think, have been split crotch, but if these were worn by adults they would have been split crotch, and obviously they would not have had elastic in the waistband. However, elastic in pantalettes waistband, bloomers waistband, etc. means that you can easily wear these under a corset and still be able to take them down, which you would need to since they're not split crotch. Personally, I do not like split crotch drawers because I wear bike shorts under all of my skirts, and I feel like split crotch is the exact opposite of wearing bike shorts. The only thing open is to allow for chafing. There it is. So anyway, what I want to do today is I actually want to salvage pieces of this and recreate these exact pantalettes with new fabric, because there is no way to mend that fabric. So I am going to use Kona cotton for this because I'm pretty sure that's what I used in the first place, and I don't think that muslin, which would kind of be my other option, would last very long. I want these to last for at least another, 7 years at this point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to salvage the elastic in the waistband so that I can reuse that because it is perfectly good. And I'm also actually going to cut off the bottom of the pantalettes so that I can just basically sew on the pin tuck and eyelet lace section onto the new legs of the pantalettes. So I'm going to cut it off probably about 1 inch above where the tucks start, and then that will allow me to just seam this onto the new legs. Once I've cut that off and once I have taken the elastic out, which for that I'm just going to open the casing and pull the elastic out so that I can reuse it. I will have to pick out where I actually sewed the ends of the elastic together and obviously undo that so that I can pull it out. But once I've done that, what I'm going to do is I am going to cut along all of the seams. Now this, I believe I actually just sewed together just using the serger. I don't think I actually used a sewing machine on that, so I'm kind of amazed that it's lasted as well as it has, but I am going to cut the serging off, which will allow me access to each of the pieces of these legs individually, and then I'm just going to keep in mind to add the seam allowance back onto all of those pieces. However, what that's going to do is it's going to allow me to lay each piece flat and use that as my pattern piece. Now, obviously, one of the pieces is going to have a little issue because it has a giant hole in it. But luckily I can just use the other piece and mirror that. frankly, really, I only need to cut one of the pieces because then I can just use that for both. So I'm just gonna use this one, which is intact, and I'll wind up just either tossing this, or maybe I can see if I can get other mock-ups out of this. That would be pretty cool because it still has some pretty good usable yardage, I think, left in like this one leg. And honestly, I will probably then keep this leg just as a pattern for the future so that I can make more pantalettes in the future. Now, because I will have cut it off here, I will also be adding 1 inch of length, I believe, so that I can seam that together. But yeah, this should be overall a very easy project. And this is how you clone a garment that you love, but that has seen better days. And just like that, I now have a pattern for these pantalettes. So the top edge doesn't need anything added to it. I've written on all of the other sides what needs to be added, like 0.5 inches is the most common, and then down at the bottom 1 inch to make up for the length that will be lost by cutting off and reattaching this, because I also have my trim piece here that will get added onto the bottom. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut 2 of these out of Kona cotton and serge around the outsides of it, serge the tops of this, and then we can assemble. So now that everything is serged and we have our pants legs here, we are going to start assembling our pantalettes. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to assemble the leg portion. So we are going to ignore the top portion completely, and we are going to just put each leg together with this section right here. So we're going to pin one to the other so that, and then make sure that you do the opposite on the other side, because although the leg portion is the same, this portion, the front versus back, is not. The back portion winds up actually being a lot deeper cut than the front portion. And so you are going to wind up with like basically a big U like that from front to back, but you're going to want to do each leg separately first and turn those right sides out and press them, just making sure that you wind up with 2 that are opposite of each other. And now that we have our pants legs all together, we can go ahead and put the little ruffle section bottom back onto the pants legs or right sides together. And this is what it looks like with the bottom pleat section added. It is a pretty seamless transition because it kind of just blends in like it's one of the tucks. So now we are going to take the 2 legs together. I have both of these turned right sides out, and we are going to put these right sides together with the seams here. Now, what I would recommend doing is starting with it right sides together and pin pretty much down into the crotch. If you want, you could keep it all right sides together. Some people find that they like to turn one leg then and put it inside the other leg. It's entirely up to you. Frankly, I feel like right sides together is pretty darn easy still. Like, this is a pretty big baggy seam, like there's lots of space here. I think maybe if you were working on a tiny pair of trousers, maybe that would be different. But really, yeah, you're just gonna do right sides together, pin all the way down here, pin through the crotch, making sure that the seams are nice and flat and matching at the crotch, and then pin up the other side right here and sew that all in place. And all that's left after that is to add the channel for the elastic. And see, now it looks rather like a pair of pantalettes. So what we are going to do now to make this elastic casing is we are going to fold down about 1/2 inch here. You could do a little less, honestly, if you want to, but basically we're just getting the raw edge out of the way by folding it down 1/2 inch. And then once you've pressed all of that down, you are going to fold it down again, just slightly wider than the width of your elastic. So my elastic is 1 inch, so I will probably fold it down about 1 1/8, 1 1/4, something like that. And you are going to press that all down, pin it in place, and then you are going to sew it, but you are going to leave a little gap of about, I'd say 2 inches or so, because that is how you're going to access the elastic. Now, if you do not already have elastic that is cut out, you are going to want to cut an elastic that is basically, it's your comfort level because all elastic is different, but you want to measure it around wherever it is that you are going to wear it, such as your natural waist, which is where I wear these, and measure it around your natural waist where it is comfortable, as in like pull it tightly so that that's how you would want your pantalettes to feel. And then you are going to add 1 extra inch because that is going to be the overlap of the elastic. So once you have threaded the elastic through, make sure you keep both ends out. I recommend safety pinning them to the pants so that they don't actually like fall into the channel. This is how I always put elastic in. You can thread it in with like a large safety pin, but make sure that you keep the other end stuck out of the channel, like pinned in place out of the channel, because otherwise you're just going to lose that all the way in the channel and you're going to have to do it all over again, and nobody likes that. And once you have that out and the elastic is all nice and flat all the way around the waistband, you're going to lay those 2 ends on top and stitch over them. I do it with the machine. I tend to do it with a zigzag stitch with the machine, and I just zigzag so that it makes like a little square, sometimes maybe with an X in the middle, of that 1 inch overlap. This is what I mean by that way that I sew elastics shut, so you can see the zigzag stitches in the square. Just keeps it nice and flat and nice and secure. So now that all of the elastic is in the pantalettes, we are going to sew shut the little area right here where we put the elastic in. I highly recommend that when you do this, you also add some sort of like a tag. I have just a little folded piece of ribbon that I am going to stitch down in this center back seam area like that, because that way I will know where the back is and not put my pantalettes on backwards. And just like that, my pantalettes are all done. So I can now go back to wearing like the Kirsten cosplays or 1830s stuff or whatever, because I have my pantalettes. So yeah, they look just like the old pair, exactly what I wanted. I really did like those pantalettes, and I'm so glad that I have this staple back in my wardrobe again. So hopefully you enjoyed this super quick little project. If you liked this video, please go ahead and click the thumbs up icon. And if you'd like to see more videos like this from me, please go ahead and click subscribe and the little bell icon to be notified every time I post a new video. I do post videos here on YouTube at least once a week, with sewing vlogs like this out on Tuesdays and sometimes additional costuming content out on Saturdays, but I post every day over on my Instagram, so please go follow me on Instagram. That's at Lady Rebecca Fashions. And if you'd like to help support all of the work that I do on this channel, I do link to my Patreon and my Ko-fi down in the description below, or you can send me a super thanks right here on YouTube. I'd also like to give a special shout out to my Edwardian level patrons, Sharon, Mirage, Laura, Jean, and Janelle. Thank you all so much for joining me today. I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Happy sewing!